Hi, hello, good evening. It is the 19th of August 2025, and you're probably wondering why I am wearing these sunglasses. Well, they're the ones my son actually brought me, so I am wearing them as they were the nearest pair to where I am sitting at this moment in time. Now, so much has happened this year to me and my family and everybody who obviously lives in and around Nuneaton, which is based in Warwickshire, in the Midlands, in the United Kingdom, where I live. At the beginning of the year, I was so enthusiastic. It was like, I'm going to do a charity event, maybe not every month, but I was aiming for like every 3 months or every 6 months, raising money and awareness for things like ovarian cancer or for a local charity. We've got the Nuneaton Carnival coming up this weekend, so I believe it's the... Wouldn't be my video without you on. The 23rd of August, which is on a Sunday. It used to be on a Saturday, now it's on a Sunday. Love it or hate it, that's just the way it is, I'm afraid. I very much used to be very involved with the Nuneaton Carnival when I was younger. I've even been in it a few times, but as I've got older, even with my children, it's just not been a major part of my life, purely because it's on a Sunday now and not on a Saturday. So it's one of them. I mean, just double check. If you go online and put in Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council and putting Nuneaton Carnival, the information will be on there. But anyway, we're slightly digressing. So, I did a charity event in January. I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody that participated in that and say thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so sorry that after January I did not, get in contact with anyone or thank them for attending or get any feedback from anyone who attended. Apologies if people were hoping to attend in the evening, but then for whatever reason they didn't turn up. So I've still got that to sort out. So it is on my to-do list. But once the 25th of January was over, my life literally snowballed out of control. I had 2 children with chickenpox. That was from literally the end of January right through till almost the end of March. I am not joking. One of them had 1 or 2 little spots that turned up, and then next thing you know, you could literally draw a dot to dot on him. He was fine. Then the moment he started to get better, his brother ended up getting them as well. And he had them in his throat, he had them near his eyes, he had them near his ears, in his ears, in very delicate areas. Both of my children had them in quite intimate areas. And my youngest had to go on a course of antibiotic cream because some of them, because of where they were extremely inflamed and painful. So yes, chickenpox can be quite mild in some children, and in others it can be quite severe. Same in adults. Just because you've had them once doesn't mean you're not likely to get them again. And then as an adult, one of the things you've got to be careful of course, is the risk of things like shingles. So literally up until the end of January, right through to March, beginning of April, my house was in complete lockdown. I didn't see anyone, I didn't speak to anyone, I was focused on my children. Yes, I did obviously take them to the hospital as a last resort. But again, with it being such a contagious illness, the only reason obviously I took them in was because at the time they were not showing signs of the actual outbreak. And I even got told by the hospital, well, if they haven't had the spots turned up yet, then pardon me, they'll be safe to bring into hospital just for a health check. The day after they were in hospital, boom. Literally, it was like drawing a dot to dot on on a small child. It was awful, and I'm not joking. It wasn't just one. I'm talking like over 100 literally appeared within 2 to 3 hours after he had just been told by A&E that no, he was fine. If they hadn't come out of him by now, he wasn't likely to get them. But it didn't mean that he still hadn't had the virus. So it's one of those really complicated ones to have to deal with. So, finally, yay! April arrived, chicken pox are over, and boom. I end up in hospital. Not just for one day, not just for 2, not just for 3, but almost every single week. All the way from April right through till August. I've ended up in hospital for one reason or another. And yes, the Department of Work and Pensions are extremely violent and agitated about it, the whole situation. I haven't notified them, because you have to by law, that, no matter what benefits you're on, that you're in hospital. They don't care whether you're in for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years, whatever. The golden rule apparently is, as long as you're not in hospital for more than 28 days consistently, they cannot legally stop your benefits. That does not mean that they cannot deduct your benefits from you. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to sort out the paperwork. I did employ somebody, like a mother's helper, to help me with my paperwork. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to follow the instructions I gave her into how to sort it out to make it easy for me to find when required. So it didn't work out. I mean, it took 3 weeks of me constantly having to say, look, this isn't right, that isn't right, this needs doing, that needs doing. And it just got to the point where it was so mentally and physically stressful for myself and for her that I just had to let her go. But, that's life. And so what ended up happening to me in April is why I'm wearing sunglasses. I got diagnosed in April with 2 conditions. One is, it's called papillary bilateral edema. And the other one is intracranial hypertension. So basically what happened to me in April is my landlord, who is still under environmental health. Yes, it is August 2025, and he has been under environmental health since January 2024. So yes, I'm still under environmental health. And anyone who has seen any of my other videos about Northern Homes and the way that they treated me, and they've treated me as their tenant, will clearly and concisely see how much hassle I have had to deal with, especially in the kitchen. So basically, to cut a long story short, my landlord decided to turn up. I had got so pissed off, I actually took up the old floor myself in the kitchen. So there is photographic evidence and there are videos about this. I then was outside, and all of a sudden my landlord, it wasn't even him, it was actually his mother, who apparently has told me she is now my landlord, asked me to come into the kitchen. And as I walked through the back door, her son started sweeping the floor in the kitchen. And as he swept the floor, this huge dust cloud flew up into my face, and I started immediately blinking and rubbing my left eye. And I was really, really pissed about this. So I left it for a few days, and then it got to the point where it was getting really, really painful. It was getting really inflamed, it was getting really itchy, irritated, excruciating. It was like it was on fire. It was horrible. I, at that point, was advised, oh, go to the chemist, get some eye drops, maybe you've got a bit of dust or grit in your eye, wash it out, bathe it, whatever. So I did that, and it wasn't working. So then I decided to go to phone up 111, which is what you have to do now by law. Well, you don't have to by law, but you're advised to. So I phoned a 111. They suggested I try and get in with my GP. There was no availability. They then suggested I go to the eye clinic in Coventry, because if you live in Nuneaton and Bedworth, if you have anything wrong with your eyes, you have to go to the eye clinic in Coventry, which is at Coventry and Walsgrave Hospital. So I went to the eye clinic, and I sat there, and the waiting time, I must express this, when you go to the eye clinic, it is a sit and wait procedure. So I'm waiting, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to be waiting a while. Probably, in all fairness, I'm going to be here all day. So I went as early as possible. Or did I have an appointment? I can't remember if I had an appointment or not the first time round. But either way, I ended up going. And I got there and had a chat with the staff there, who are absolutely amazing. Cannot fault them. They were brilliant. And they said, what's wrong? And I said, I think I've got an eye infection in my left eye, and I've got dust in it. And I explained what I thought it was, what was wrong with me, and they did all the tests. An hour went by, 2 hours went by, 3 hours went by, 4 hours went by. And it was test after test after test after test after test. Question after question. What are your symptoms? What are the side effects have you had? What's been wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. And they kept saying to me, are you in pain? Do you feel nauseous? Have you got blurred vision? Have you got double vision? How are you suffering from vertigo? Are you suffering from tinnitus? Are you suffering from eye pain in both eyes? Are you suffering from headaches? Have you experienced any disorientation, memory loss, crushing pain in your skull, etc.? So they went to literally over 10 different symptoms. And I sat there and I went, no, to every single question I was asked. The next thing I know, they're saying, you're not going home, there's something seriously wrong with you, you've now got to go and have a CT scan. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, no, please do not tell me I've got a brain tumour. Please do not tell me that I'm going to die the way my dad died. And it's finally been diagnosed, and I'm fucked, basically. And what ended up happening was they said they are refusing to give you a CT scan. But they pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I just want to say thank you so much to the eye clinic for that. And they pushed. So I went downstairs, I had a CT scan. They asked me the exact same 10 questions. The answer was no. They said, right, you are going to have to come back. We'll write to you. Or we'll phone you. And at this point, my children were at the seaside. And I just said to myself, fuck it. It is 3 a.m. in the morning. There is nothing else I can do. I am not going to go home and be by myself and die of a brain tumour or have something seriously go wrong with me. And the last thing that I see is that hospital. So I did the most insane thing in the world. I made my way to my children by myself. I have never embarked on such a mission within a decade of my life. One, because of my OCD, one, because of my PTSD, anxiety, depression, EUPD, the fact that I need the toilet every half an hour, that I have so many health problems, and just the thought of getting on a bus or getting on a train or even walking to the local shop over the last 10 years for me has been, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Why should I do it when I can just stay at home? And I finally learned how to use the Just Eat app. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to go anywhere. I could just stay at home and order in. It has taken me from, bearing in mind, the internet didn't exist when I was at school. I'm 42. But it has taken me 10 years to finally get used to using the internet. I still struggle. And because I've done that, my life has literally like got that small. And I just said to myself on that day after I'd been in hospital, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. Because if I don't do it, I'm going to regret it. And for me, to regret never seeing my kids again was the main thing that worried me. So I managed to get to my children, fell asleep in the hotel, didn't get to see the seaside. And I had a phone call from the hospital while I was there saying, you've got to have a lumbar puncture. There's something seriously wrong with you. We're not sure what it is. Where are you right now? If your symptoms persist within the next 24 to 48 hours, come straight back to hospital. Monday morning, I thought I was dying. Every symptom that they asked me if I had it on the Friday previous hit me like a freight train. I even lost my sight for 2 hours. I went back to hospital, thought, okay, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go into A&E. They're going to pull up my medical records. They're going to notice that I'm already in the system, that I'm waiting for a lumbar puncture. They're just going to make a call to the neurology department or the eye clinic, and I'll be fine. If I knew what I knew now, I would have just gone straight back to the eye clinic. I would not have even contemplated going to A&E at Walsgrave Hospital. 30 hours they made me wait. 30 hours. And when I finally got on the ward, it was 2 o'clock, just after 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and I had been in hospital from 10:30 Monday morning. I'm not joking. It got to about midnight on the Monday, so it was early hours of Tuesday morning, and I started throwing up. I lost my sight for 2 hours. I couldn't see. I had shooting pains in my eyes. I had shooting pains in my head. It was as if my head had been put into a vice, like some medieval torture device, and somebody was literally crushing my skull. And my eyes felt like they weren't popping out of my head. They were kind of sinking into the back of my head. And they just felt really swollen, really heavy, really painful. And I'm crying and I'm screaming and I'm shouting for somebody to help me. And nobody helped me. It was awful. I would never wish that even on my worst enemy. And the moment I had my lumbar puncture, it was after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it was about 5 in the evening by the time anything actually happened. And they said to me, right, we're going to do a lumbar puncture. It's going to hurt, but we're going to do one anyway. And to get me through that pain, all I could think of was my children. I kept thinking of my kids playing on the beach, singing, laughing, joking, making sandcastles, dancing in the waves, anything to not focus on the pain that I was enduring at that time. It was so excruciating. It wasn't like labour. Your body obviously experiences pain differently depending on where it is and what it's entailed. But the moment I had that lumbar puncture done, the pain in my head, just like that, I mean, literally, click like someone literally flicked a switch, disappeared. And my eyesight stopped being blurry. However, a few days later, I noticed that whatever was wrong with me hadn't improved. I'm still extremely light sensitive, and we're now in August. I try not to wear sunglasses indoors if I can avoid it, but whenever I go out, I have to, because my eyes just feel like they're burning. I have to limit the amount of media time that I have, because I am finding it hard to read a computer or read my phone or watch TV or do anything digital. My eyesight starts to go blurry. I start to get double vision. I find it really, really hard to see. And I've been trying to find out from the hospital why that's still happening, and they can't give me an answer. I was on painkillers. I was on like a medication to help with intracranial hypertension, and all that ended up happening with that was I ended up having sickness, diarrhea, chronic abdominal pains, sleeping up to 20 hours a day. So I didn't have to take any of my other medication at that point because there was no point, because it just wouldn't work. And to add insult to injury, I kept ringing up the doctors, I kept ringing up the hospital, saying I was in pain, I'm in pain, and it was all in my right side, not my left, which is what I'm used to. And I got diagnosed with appendicitis. So literally from April to August of this year, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, everything to do with my health has literally just been a shitter. Between February and April, it was my children. And then from April to August, it's been me. So I have not really been able to do anything. Or if I have done anything, it's been very, very sporadic, very limited, little and often. But intracranial hypertension, unfortunately, it's one of those things that people know very little about. Even the hospitals don't know that much about it. A lot of it's trial and error, and a lot of it is, lose weight, and you won't have this problem anymore. So if you do suffer with headaches, migraines, blackouts, if you have tinnitus, if you have any of the conditions that I've listed, or if in doubt, go straight to hospital. Or phone 111, see what they say, then go to hospital. Because all I can say is, if it was not for the eye clinic in Coventry, who basically, by checking my eyes, picked up on the fact that there was swelling in my optic nerves, by the time I probably would have got to have seen a doctor, so on the Monday, the following, I went on the Friday, I went back in on the Monday, because I already knew there was something wrong with me. I wouldn't take no for an answer. If I hadn't have already had that diagnosis 4 days earlier, I probably would just do what everyone does. I would have gone home and gone, yeah, okay, all right, whatever. You're saying there's nothing wrong with me. I would have gone home, took some paracetamol, tried to go to sleep, and I could have woken up within 24 hours. And my story may have been different. But thanks to the eye clinic in Coventry, that didn't happen. But the negligence that I did endure on the Monday, I went to wait 30 hours for a lumbar puncture, and the severe breakdown in communication could have made my whole story so much more different. So I was very, very lucky. And what I would hate is for anyone else to be dismissed or misdiagnosed or poorly treated like I've been. So over the next couple of months, again, like I said, I'm struggling with using social media. I'm struggling with reading. I'm struggling with writing. I'm struggling with anything digital because my eyesight isn't how it was before April. And I have noticed that change. I am trying to find a solution around that. And so it's just little and often. But because I'll tell you what has inspired me to do this video, whether anyone chooses to watch it or not, and if you do, thank you for your time, is I have just watched the other part of Limitless with Chris Hemsworth in. And when I first watched the first series, which is on Disney Plus, it was absolutely amazing. And I could really, really, really relate to him and the things he's gone through. And I'm really proud that, there's been a modern thing about the human body and how different things affect us in our lives, like stress and age and, anything genetic, one thing and another. But anyway, there's a second one, and it's just a 3-part series. And again, it was about the brain. It was about how we deal with pain. And it was about how learning something new in your life can actually help you to live longer, healthier, and support your cognitive brain development. So it is a really, really interesting and good program to watch, because since April, the one thing I've been trying to teach myself to do is, because I have been struggling with my sight, is working on my other, senses: touch, taste, smell, and hearing. And one of the things it's enabled me to do is to be a little bit more proactive, and to say when I have been well enough to do so, because sometimes it is mind over matter, is to sort out my shit. So I have literally been sorting out the rooms, I've been sorting out the kids' bedrooms, I've been sorting out things I don't need, because the last thing I want is to wake up one morning, find out I'm totally blind, and then not be able to do anything for myself. So having somebody in my home, trying to trust somebody to help me with paperwork, and then to find that they weren't basically competent to do it, was a real shock to the system. I put a lot of trust and a lot of faith in this person. It's not like I usually would let anyone in. And the proof in the pudding basically was, I went to a meeting with my son, and literally I couldn't find the paperwork I was looking for. And she had assured me that it was correctly filed and that it was right. And obviously me being complacent, because I was saying to myself, no, don't get stressed, don't get stressed, don't get stressed. If this person has told you they have done this job, trust them. Only to find that they hadn't. And I was a little bit skeptical, because I was finding that she was going through my paperwork really, really quickly. But then I just thought to myself, oh, you know what? I've got dyslexia, I've got dyspraxia, I've got dyscalculia. Maybe if I didn't have those disabilities, this is how quickly I could file my paperwork and sort it out myself. That wasn't the case. Basically, what she was doing was she was putting all of the dates in one Polly Pocket. So when I came to my meeting, I'm so used to, when I used to file it myself in the past, every Polly Pocket would only have one letter in. So somebody would say to me, oh, I want the 25th of August. I could then literally flick through an entire Lever Arch folder of, say, 24 or 25 or whatever year, and I would know that it would go like in chronological order, but it would be backwards. So January would be at the back, and then August would be at the front. And she didn't do that. So there I am at this meeting trying to find this paperwork, and I must have spent half an hour trying just to find one letter. And I was getting really stressed, I was getting really agitated, my eyesight was blurry, I was really, really struggling. I was literally showing the man in the meeting every single piece of paper saying, is this the one, is this the one, is this the one, is this the one, is this the one? And he was going, I don't understand, why can't you tell me? And I'm like, because I can't see. I said, I can see you, but I cannot read the date on this paperwork. And after the meeting, I just literally got all the paperwork, threw it straight in my bag, and took it home. And then I said to her, look, I'm not happy. I'm really sorry. I've got to tell you this. You know, I went to a meeting. It was half an hour longer than what it should have been. You need to redo all my folders. And on the day I asked her to do that, she's basically said that she couldn't work for me anymore, and if she could, she'd ring me. And I haven't heard from her since. So that is what I'm saying. I'm not the most easiest person to work with or for. I'm not very good at communicating or explaining myself to people. I have a lot of trust issues. And I just assumed that, you know, if I was to say to somebody, could you please put this paperwork in chronological order and make it clear so that I know where every single letter is, not that I'm going to have to go through an entire Polly Pocket full of letters that are dated from the 1st of July to the 31st of September, April, June, and November to the 31st of July. That is me having to literally go through 31 pieces of paper, for argument's sake, if I'd ended up having a letter every single day in July. I haven't got time to do that. I needed it to be 31 Polly Pockets with a letter for each day in. And I obviously didn't explain that to her properly, or she didn't comprehend it properly. And then when I tried to get her to do it again, her attitude wasn't the most positive. I know it's a piss take and I know it's hard. I used to work in retail, and one of the worst things that my manager used to do to me is she would say, here's a planogram, lay out this shelf. But the planogram wasn't the same as the shelf, so we couldn't do that. So again, I had to say, well, that can't happen because the planogram's wrong. The shelf you've got isn't the same as in the picture. And another thing they would do is they would say, right, put all these things on a shelf. And then the moment you put the last vase or the last candle or whatever it was I was stacking on the shelf, they'd come over and go, no, I'm not happy with that. Do it again. And you'd be like, what do you mean do it again? I want these ones at the top and those ones at the bottom. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. You put the heaviest ones at the bottom and you put the lightest ones at the top. You don't put the heaviest candles at the top and the lightest ones at the bottom. But they were saying, oh, because of eye level and all that, the majority of people are not going to buy a candle that burns for 24 hours. Or they're going to only want to buy the tea lights. So they need to be in the middle. And if you have ever tried to stack tea lights on a shelf, it doesn't work. The amount of times I would say to them is they're tea lights. So they're not going to stack on a shelf. Okay? Not unless they're in a box. If they're loose in a packet, you need a basket to put them in. And the majority of times they would say, well, you know, anything that doesn't burn for any more than 3 hours needs to be at eye level. So again, I would literally have to read the time on every single candle and then try and rearrange the shelf for my manager, so that they were happy with it. And then they'd come back and go, no, I'm not happy with that, do it again. So I do remember how frustrating that was, you know, to have to redo a candle shelf 5 times. And I was at the point where I was just saying to the manager, for Christ's sake, you know, if you're not happy, why don't you just tell me which candles you want on which shelf? And then it was, I shouldn't have to, because you should know how to do it by now. So I try really, really hard not to be patronising or condescending to anyone. And I will take it at face value that if you tell someone how to do something, 9 times out of 10, they're going to know. They're not an idiot. But unfortunately, in this case, it wasn't the fact that they were an idiot. It was the fact that they were inexperienced. And once they got told that I wasn't happy with their work, they took it upon themselves to say, sorry, if you're not happy, then I don't want to work for you anymore. And, you know, that's their choice. So I'm going to leave the video here for now. Hopefully you've been able to glean some useful information from this. If you haven't, I can only apologise. But like I said, and the main reason for this video was to obviously apologise to those people that I've probably not really spoken to or have neglected over the last 6 to 8 months. But like I said, your health has to come first. So if you have any health problems, see a doctor. Phone 999, phone 111. Do what you can. Be safe, be well, and take care of you. Thank you.